Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, where we interview location-independent entrepreneurs that travel the world like a boss by being their own boss. Here's your host, Johnny FD.
Welkom bij Travel Like a Boss podcast.
I love it. So before we begin this week's episode, I just want to say big thank you to everyone who's been leaving all these amazing reviews on iTunes and everywhere else. This week, I want to acknowledge RJ Ramirez. He said, love this podcast, pinged on this one for a month from the beginning to the latest episode back in 2017. Been listening since. Johnny has inspired me to pick it up and move forward my life, business, relationships, the whole 9 yards. Thanks, Johnny. If you want to know about the digital nomad world, travel, life, business, check it out here, Ruben. Thanks, Ruben, and enjoy this week's episode. Hey guys, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 195 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here in Pokhara, Nepal, with Maria DeWitt. Welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome.
So I met Maria here at the hostel that we're staying at, and she's had a really interesting story. Not only has she already completed the Everest Base Camp trek, as well as a bunch of other trekking there, but she's actually been basically traveling the world for free. Not just for free, she's getting paid to travel the world as a guide. How did all this start? Like, did you always travel a lot as a kid, or what made you start traveling so much?
So not really. I'm a farmer's girl. So, my parents, they never traveled, and I know it started actually with my exchange to Australia. And so I lived there for like 7 months, and yeah, what I did was just travel around Australia and New Zealand, and I fell in love with traveling and the people I meet and just the adventures you go on, and it's awesome. Like, yeah, that's how I fell in love, and then I had to go back home, and I was like, oh, I need to do this more often, and yeah, that's how it started, really.
So this exchange in Australia, was it for school or were you working there?
So it was for school, for university. It was, at the Monash University in Melbourne. So yeah, it was just a great adventure, and that made me fall in love with the world. Like, apart from Holland, I've been to European countries, but there's so much more than just Europe.
I think it's funny because half the listeners of this podcast are American, and our dream is to travel in Europe. And the idea of living somewhere like Holland, where you can literally just drive for 2 hours and be in another country, it sounds so cool to us. Do you think that because you're from there, it's a little bit less exotic or less exciting to, drive to Switzerland or drive to Germany, these places that most Americans dream about?
Well, so I have traveled quite a lot within Europe, and I do think it's awesome. Like, if we go out for like 3 days, or we go on a weekend trip or so, we could just go to like past 3 countries and I don't know, like have a good time there. And it's always funny, yeah, that you have like different languages and different cultures, and I really adore it. So, but I suppose in America, the culture doesn't differ as much within such a small distance. But I've never been to America, so I could say the same about America, I suppose, like, that it's some sort of, I don't know, wonderful world where everything's awesome. But I don't know. I'll have to find out this summer.
Yeah, so actually I haven't even traveled that much in the US. I've been to a few places like, Las Vegas or New York, but really I haven't done a road trip through it. I haven't really explored the US as much as a lot of backpackers that I've met here, actually. I think a lot of travelers that go to the US, because it's such a pain in the ass to get the visa and to fly there, they end up seeing a lot more during their short, 3 months than I have my whole life in the US. But you're very lucky where this summer, not only are you going to get to go to the US, you're actually getting paid to go to the US. How did that work?
Well, so I have a job in guiding, and I show Dutch people around in other countries, and I did Europe last summer, and now I'm heading towards the US, and yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Like, we're gonna be in groups of like 20 people and get some cars and just drive around, and there's some sort of itinerary, of course, I have to follow. But yeah, it's just a road trip with 20 like strangers, but it's gonna be great fun. And yeah, you get very close as a group. So we're gonna explore that beautiful country, which is called America.
So when you first mentioned that you're going to be guiding in the US, and then you mentioned that you've never been there, I was kind of scratching my head and wondering, like, why would somebody want a guide that, you know, isn't like a local, you know, like, for example, you know, if I go somewhere and I get a tour guide, I normally kind of expect them to live there or be like a local. But then I started thinking about it and I was like, you know, I guess maybe more than that, they want a person that can speak their language, they can speak Dutch, but also speaks good English. And if anything, they just want someone who's responsible for the planning and the itinerary, because when people are on vacation, they just want to relax and just enjoy themselves. They don't want to do the planning. They don't want to do the navigation. Why do you think people hire a guide? Why do you think they want someone like you?
So it's more like a factor of stability, I suppose. They just want someone that takes care of them and that they're ensured to have a good time. And whenever they don't, they can just tell me in their own language. And I'll have to take care of whatever it is. Like, it could also be frustrations within the group. Like, you're with 20 strangers, so you don't know. You might not get along with some, so you might just not want to share a room with one or another. And yeah, I'm that person. I'm that person that can fix all their problems and, make their holiday like a very relaxed and, very much fun holiday. And, so I'm not necessarily a guy to tell them about their culture. Even though after I'm going to have several groups there. So after some time, I'll know more about the surroundings and the culture itself, but they'll find out anyway. Even without me, they'll experience it, and they'll probably talk to locals as well. But the holidays, they're mainly focused on nature and not necessarily about the American culture itself, like the people.
So I'm curious, in past groups, has there been any like adult babysitting you needed to do, or anything kind of funny that you had to get in between?
Yes. So I've had quite some people that have like a slight form of autism. So I've had girls crying in the bus because the music was too loud, even though it wasn't actually loud. And I've had girls that started crying because the girls next to them were laughing too loud or whatever. And I've had many weird ass experiences, I suppose. So yeah, it is babysitting, and you want to sort of avoid the fact that they form groups, like separate groups, and leave people out. So you want to sort of create a coherent group, like one team. But there are always some cases that sometimes you just need to leave them alone, or let them do their own thing, and they're fine. But yeah, it's also a babysitting job. It's all kinds of jobs within one job. So
everybody is Dutch. Is it both male and female, or do the guys just not cry? And what age range are they?
So it's young adults. The holidays I offer, or my company offers, is young adults from 18 to 35. And it's mainly not necessarily single, as they don't have a relationship, but they just travel solo. But sometimes we have like brothers or like friends or want to go together. And they're like active holidays, so you need to be some sort of fit. So that's pretty much the range we're going for. And yeah, so far it has been great. Like most people, starting or like 20, 25, I suppose that's the biggest group, and they're always male and female. And most of the time it's 50-50, more or less. But I've had cases that there were only 2 girls or 2 guys. But it always differs, and it's always fine, you know.
That actually sounds like the perfect scenario for like relationships to happen. Did you see any romance spark or any drama from that?
So yeah. I've officially, I'm not allowed to talk to my people anymore after they've traveled with my company. But I have heard via other channels that there are actually, relationship that still last. Like, even though it's been 2 years, they're still together. And but there's always some drama as well. Like, oh, they kissed last night and now they don't want to share a room. And I don't know. There's always things going on. And I've always had sometimes, I've had, I found out afterwards that there was some sort of relationship going on, and it didn't dare to tell me and all that. Like, but it's good fun. It's always funny to find out how people end up together. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And it actually sounds really fun. So I wonder, wherever you guys are from, if there is a version of this, especially because it's nice that it combines a lot of nice things like solo travel. So you don't have to wait for your friends to have a vacation or a holiday. It's nice that it's a mixed group of guys and girls. And it's nice that it's based on adventure travel and not just, sightseeing or, like normal holiday package. Like, where have you been, on these tours? What have you done?
So I've been to Slovenia, last year, and we did like heaps of activities there, mainly water focused. So canyoning, rafting, via ferrata, some sort of baliak. All those kind of crazy, water sports. And I've been to Sweden, and that was more relaxing, more like horse riding, canoeing, and just enjoying the scenery with walks and all that. And I did Ireland as well, and that was more like a road trip as well. So we traveled through the country, did a day hike up a mountain. We did like whiskey tasting and things like that, and that was amazing as well. And yeah.
So I'm assuming that during these trips, is the company paying for all your like hotel and food accommodation? Are they flying you there?
So yeah, they do pay for most of my expenses. It depends per trip what exactly they pay for. Sometimes I had to pay for, if I wanted to join an activity, I had to pay for that, or, food wise, I often, go to a restaurant and say, oh, I have 20 people waiting outside. If you give me free food, I'll give you 20 people. And they often say yes. And if they don't, I'll go to the restaurant next door until they say yes. So, well, that's how I arrange my free food, and the accommodation is taken care of by the company. So I don't have a lot of expenses, just tiny ones, like my own expenses, and maybe a bottle of water on the way or some things like that.
That's actually really smart about the food hack. I used to do that with scuba diving. If I was organizing a group of friends or travelers and I can get like 6 or 8 people to go scuba diving, mm-hmm. I would just email them and just say, hey, I'm a dive master. I have a group of 8 coming. Can I dive for free? And half the time they're like, yeah, that's fine. And they don't even ask me to guide. They just just have me go anyways. Or they usually give me like some kind of discount or something. So I think that's a nice travel hack. What other travel hacks have you picked up along the way?
So it's pretty much the same thing. Like, you could do it with anything. So with food, with, I don't know, or a place to stay, or certain activities, like, I don't know, if you needed a guide for anything, or an activity that wasn't like in the official itinerary of the company. And, like, they still have the freedom to, sometimes they've got like a day off and they can choose whatever they want to do. And yeah, you could do the same. So, for instance, like, if you want to go to the Columbia ice fields in Canada, you could say like, oh, I'll bring this 20 people up, and, yeah, it'd be cool if I could come along and guide these people, but I'm not expecting to pay. And, yeah, things like that. I don't know. Like, it's mainly just getting the free stuff. But it's been pretty good though.
Yeah. I like it. Actually, even here, in Nepal, it's pretty like a normal, common thing that when you're on the trek and you stop by a tea house for the night, that you say to them, if I have dinner and breakfast here, can I have the room for free? Because they really make the money from the meals and you eating there, not going somewhere else. But at the same time, the rooms are normally only like $3. So sometimes I actually feel like I don't even want to bother to ask, but I just kind of feel like it's kind of part of the culture that I feel like I should, like, what was your experiences with that?
So it's pretty much the same. Yeah. Like, you don't want to be cheap because you don't want to pay like or you don't want to feel like you're not giving them any money or want to exploit them in any way. But yeah, that's just how it goes here. And I suppose I'm going to spend the money here anyway, but then in a different way. So I do support the economy anyway. In like, if I've got those $3 of the room left over, I'll spend it via an activity, or I'll eat some more somewhere else. So overall, I'll spend it in Nepal anyway, because I have some sort of budget. So yeah, one way or another, I'll spend it. And I guess it's just the way everyone does it here. So I guess they expect it too. So
yeah, if anything, I think because they expect it, that they just raise the prices of food. So it's kind of just evens out anyways. And to be honest, like for me personally, at least, whenever they do agree to the free room, I end up ordering dessert, like an apple pie, or I end up ordering like 3, like, chai masala teas or something. So my bill ends up being the same. I just kind of, end up just having extra anyways. Like, what were some of your favorite things to eat? What were your go-to things to eat on the trek?
So on the trek, of course, dal bhat, because dal bhat is 24-hour power. It's great. It's massive. Like, you've been trekking for so long and you want to have proper food when you made it to your tea house, and it's just unlimited. Like, they keep asking if you want more rice or more vegetables or anything, and you could just fill up completely and then be all ready for the next day. So for sure, that's like one of my favorites, dal bhat.
Can you explain what dal bhat is?
Oh, dal bhat. So that's like plain rice with some lentil soup, a curry, some sort of I don't even know how they call it, but like spinach kind of mix. Sometimes they put like a spicy sauce with that. And yeah, the curry consists out of either potatoes or cauliflower, or it's like a mix of vegetables and some very, very nice spices. And officially you have to mix it all together, but I just always pour the lentil soup right on top of the rice and have it like separately, pretty much. But it's so good though. Like, yeah, I can never have enough. And even though I trekked for a long time, I can still eat dal bhat. And one of my other favorite things is masala tea, like the chai tea. It's great. It's normally I don't drink sweet tea, but here you need your sugars, And yeah, I love the chai tea. I drank so much tea on the tracks. It was warm. It was like very nice and tasty. And yeah. That's how I made it through the Everest region. Yeah,
so I normally never put sugar in like my coffee or my tea either, except for as soon as I got to Nepal, you just get, number one, I think you just get so used to it, but second, I feel like you're just burning calories so fast here with all the treks and the high altitude and the cold that you just end up thinking like, you know what, it's fine. Like I'll be okay. Did you end up losing or gaining weight here in Nepal?
Well, at first I lost weight during the trek, but then I found it a very nice excuse to eat more. Like when I was back, like, oh, now I deserve more food because I lost weight. And yeah, so I might have evened it out already. But it's good that I'm going to go on another trek. You might have heard like Johnny, he just did the Annapurna region. So, I'm probably going to leave soon and do that too. So hopefully I'll lose some weight then, and I'll be nice and skinny when I go back to Holland.
I'm sure you'll be fine, but that's pretty insane that you did the Everest trek, and actually not just Everest Base Camp, but you also did the 3 passes, and then now you're going to do the Annapurna Circuit as well. So in total, how many days have you done so far, and how many days are you going to do now?
So the planning for the Everest region was like 20 days, but we ended up doing it within 17. So that was like a bit faster than expected, but you never know with the altitude. And the Annapurna region, I'm not sure. So my flight is within 3 weeks. So whatever I do, I need to be back within 3 weeks. So it's going to be another like 15, 16 days, I suppose, until make it back.
So I think that's insane. I think like for a lot of people listening at home, going on a 1 day, full day trek is already a lot. Going on an overnight trek is, very seldom heard of. Going on like a 2, 3, 4, 5 day trek is crazy. Going on a 2-3 week trek is just like insane. Like back in Holland, is this something that you would ever do or you ever hear about anyone doing?
So no. Like Holland is very flat, so people don't go trekking. Like, people just walk. They like walking, but never like in elevation or like we already complain when we have to cycle up a bridge or something like that. Like, we're not used to any heights. So no one really does that. And I like when I came to Nepal, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. Felt like I was just gonna go with the flow and see. So I met a friend and he was doing Everest region and I was like, well, okay, I could join, sure. And then he was like, oh, I want to do the 3 passes as well. And I was like, oh, I don't know. So I wasn't really expecting to do this. And then I booked it and I was kind of scared, but, I made it in the end. So that's awesome. Like, I didn't expect I could do it and I could, like, eventually I made it apparently. So, I guess it didn't hold me back, even though I had no experience doing 2-3 week trek.
Well, congratulations. I'm very proud of you. What was base camp like and what was the 3 passes like?
So, I think the 3 passes were amazing. Like, you walk on glaciers, like several glaciers, pretty ones, not so pretty ones. You hit in snowstorms, but you always survive. Like, I had a guide who, showed me the way. I think that's quite necessary if you hit a storm. So, I love the 3 passes, but the base camp, I don't know, it's something I feel like tourists do just to be able to say, like, oh, I've been to Everest Base Camp, and people know the Mount Everest, obviously, so they'll be like, whoa, you did very well, but I don't know, the Everest Base Camp isn't as high as the Annapurna Circuit, or, the view, it's a pretty glacier you can see from there, but it's not as great as going over the passes, or, any other bit of the Everest region, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that when you do the other treks, you can still see Mount Everest. And if anything, you might be able to get an even better view of Mount Everest as well as the Himalayas on even a trek that might not even be so high. I think you're right. I think most people go to Everest Base Camp just to say they've been to Everest Base Camp, But at the same time, it is a very cool accomplishment that you can kind of put on your bucket list. Is there anything else on your bucket list that you haven't checked off yet?
There's one very high up, which is Iceland. Iceland is supposed to be amazing. So it's supposed to have like glaciers as well as, beautiful scenery, mountains, geysers, hot pools, anything. It sounds like a dream to me. The only thing that's holding me back is that, the daylight is very, very little, in winter or towards December or, that part of the year. And that's often when I have the time to go there. And since in summer I'll be guiding everyone around and, everywhere. So, Iceland, it's very, very high on my bucket list. Even though it's part of Europe and fairly close. Like a 5-hour flight. But, it's not even expensive, like 150 euros or so for a return ticket. But, it's supposed to be great. It's gonna happen sooner or later.
Yeah, so the flight might not be expensive to Iceland, but everything else there I've heard is very expensive, from, a dorm room costing 40-50 euros a night, or maybe more, hotel rooms costing, $200 plus, even meals. I think somebody showed a receipt from McDonald's that it was like $30 for a Happy Meal or something, or maybe a Big Mac meal. But my buddy Sam Marks, who co-hosts my other podcast, Invest Like a Boss, he's trying to convince me to go to Iceland with him this summer, actually. And he wants to bicycle all around Iceland, which sounds like a very Dutch thing to do. Would you do that?
Well, I love biking, but I love flat biking. So I guess if you go around the island, stay close to the sea, it might be fairly flat. But I've heard it's very, very cold. So I don't like cold either. It might snow and rain and all that. And being on a bike while doing that, I don't know. I was thinking about just a road trip. Or a van or so I could sleep in. I don't have to pay for a dorm and just get a van and sleeping there. That sounds like the best way for me to do it. But yeah, if you want to cycle, go ahead. It might be a very, very nice challenge, you know.
Maybe I'll have Sam follow me on his bicycle while I'm in a van. I think that might be the best plan. And actually, if you check my my YouTube history, it seems like I have this weird addiction where I've been watching these van life videos where people buy these Sprinter vans. I think they do the other vans too, but it looks like the Mercedes Sprinter van is kind of the what I would do, where it has a high roof. It's like a comfortable car. You can actually just drive around. So it's not like a school bus that's really difficult to drive, but they convert it into these beautiful tiny homes where they have like a full size or queen size bed. They have a small kitchen, and some of them even have bathrooms and showers in them. And they just really look like a nice like studio apartment inside these vans. Have you seen those?
I haven't really seen them, no. And not the very luxury ones, at least. Like, I've traveled with some vans and slept in some vans, but they were like the Wicked vans, you might know them. The spray painted Wicked vans, in Australia and, in Chile I had one as well. So they're just, yeah, rubbish vans, but I don't know. A Sprinter van seems quite, wow. I can see the images on Google now. Johnny's showing me. But wow, they seem like very, very nice vans. You should look it up yourself, like on Google Images, Sprinter van conversion. It's like a small hotel. Yeah. That seems like a reasonable thing to do in Iceland. Instead of paying a dorm of 40 euros, you might be able to just get a van and invest in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and most people that are doing this are actually in America. And it's actually funny. It's usually non-Americans that go to America for like 3 months or 6 months. They build one of these vans kind of from scratch, and they just like drive around the whole US. And I guess it's because it's so expensive to stay in hotels in the US. Even camping permits are expensive. Like sometimes in the US it's like $25 to $40 a night just to be able to put your tent, while you can park your van anywhere and just sleep in it. So I think that's a cool idea. It's something that I want to do in the US one day whenever I go back, but I don't know when that'll be. But yeah, so for Iceland, that's something I want to do as well. Those hot springs look amazing. I think it's something to do as a couple as well. So, if you guys have a significant other, I think that's a great place to visit, or plan to with your future imaginary girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Like, there's so many states in America, and there's so much distance to travel, and I'd say that a van would really be the outcome of that. Like, you could just stay there and see everything and not having to pay for all of it. That'd be great. Like, there's even the kitchen in there, so you could even cook. You don't even have to go out for dinner every day.
Yeah, and another actual travel hack is Walmart allows you to sleep overnight in their parking lots for, I think, up to 2 nights. So you can technically drive all around the entire US and just stop in Walmart parking lots, because they're pretty much everywhere. And I think this is a well-known hack in like the RV community. But for what I really like about these Sprinter vans is because they just look like a normal work van from the front, from outside, and you can, basically get blackout curtains and tint the windows. You can actually park on the street and nobody will even know you're there. And because you have your bathroom inside, you never have to like go out in the middle of the night, to use the toilet. You can have like air vents on the roof, so you can get like, fresh air flowing. You can have heaters inside, so when you're somewhere cold, you can stay warm. It's really cool. Like, I highly encourage everyone to check out one of the videos on YouTube. Just look for van life. I think it's also probably hashtag van life everywhere. But you'll notice almost everybody there is a couple. And I think it's because, it gets lonely driving across the US for 3 months if you're just by yourself. So I think ideally I'd want to do this if I'm in a relationship, and maybe if I have a dog, because I think that'll be like the ultimate van life life.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Like, yeah, maybe, who knows, in a van with a dog, like walk outside, just being able to go anywhere with the dog. And I don't know, sounds like a great idea. However, you do need some more space in your van for your dog, as well as where does all the litter go? You need to like sort of dump that anywhere. And I'm just wondering, like, you won't get stolen probably. Like, you won't be robbed when you're parked in a van like that, when you've got tinted glass windows, and that should be fine, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that do it already now. I think there's like a whole community, so I think it would be okay. But I think the downside of committing to van life right now for me is losing the freedom to travel. I mean, I guess I could always park it somewhere, but it's a big investment. I think they cost quite a bit to build and convert. You know, you can buy the vans used, but I would imagine you still end up spending like $60,000 buying the van, converting it, which is great because, you know, basically, you know, you can save on rent in the US, which might be $1,500 or $2,000 a month. You can also sell the van afterwards, but it is a big commitment. And right now, I'd much rather use that time and that money to be able to fly to another country, stay, you know, here in a hostel for $13 a night with a private room, or, you know, $4 a night for a bed, than to have that commitment. Also, you know, because you're away for 3 months at a time, you probably can't have a dog, right?
No, I won't be able to have a dog. Even though dogs are my favorite animal, so I'd love to have a dog, but no. But I suppose that's the good thing. It won't actually, if you have one of those vans, you won't be able to not travel, because that's all you do, pretty much. So I don't think that's a good excuse to not do it. Like, you have a van and you don't even have to stay in the US. You could just travel. You could take it, ship it to Europe, and then go, I don't know, there and just park it anywhere. I'm pretty sure you could just park it for a night everywhere, like on the parking lot. And they won't even care. They won't even notice. So, you could try in Europe as well. And then you can experience how it is to just be able to get to another country within an hour or two.
Yeah, actually, what I'd probably do is I would probably just sell the van and then just either buy or build another one in Europe. Especially because in the US, we have left-hand drive. So I think that'd be a little bit confusing, but yeah, I think it's definitely possible. And I think in Europe it'd be even cooler because you can drive literally the whole continent, and there's so many countries you can see. If you got really adventurous, you can drive through like Kazakhstan or something down to Asia. So that could be really fun. So that's something I definitely might see on my future. And I think a lot of people are wondering now, how did you get this job of yours? Because that seems like I think a dream job for a lot of people, to be able to travel to all these cool places, you know, and have it, you know, not only be free, but also to be able to make some money from it.
Yeah, I was in South America last year. No, the year before that. But I was about to go back to Holland, and I was like, whoa, why would I want to go back to Holland? Like, I know my life there. It's not very exciting, and I'll have the same friends. And I love my friends. Like, really, I do. I love them to death. Like, I've known that life, and I like this traveling, exciting life. And I was just there, and I was like, well, I could just at least try. Like, we have a saying in Holland that's niet geschoten is altijd mis, which means if you don't shoot, it's always wrong. Like, if you don't shoot the arrow at the red point in the darts, if you don't shoot at all, you won't be able to make it. So I just applied online for a few guiding jobs in Holland that seemed reasonably okay, and seemed like a job that I would want. And I wrote a motivational letter, fully convinced of that I was capable of doing that, and I would enjoy it, and they would enjoy me. And so they hired me, and you know, like, one thing leads to another, and they just give me a trial in like, I started in Slovenia. And if the people that you guide love you, then you're fine. And they did, so yay!
Well, very good. Congratulations on that. How many, applications did you send out? Like, how many companies did you apply for?
Not so many. Like 5, I was really convinced I was able to do that job and convinced I would like the job as well. Like not just sending out to any company. I would want like a company that suits me. Like I'm not the beachy kind of person. Like I love beaches, but we also have like a lot of holidays being sold in Holland, where they go drink alcohol on the beach, and that's pretty much what they do for the whole holiday. And that's not what I want. Like that's not what the jobs I applied for were like. They were all like adventurous and young and abroad and like really doing something. And yeah, that's why I applied for those. And I expressed all this in my motivational letter, and apparently it convinced them to hire me. Like I got 3 interviews out of 5, so that was pretty good, and I just chose the one that suited me best, and now I'm very happy doing this job. So
yeah, it's cool. I think that's a good kind of job applying tip for everybody, regardless of what job you're applying for, whether it's in travel or really for anything. Don't be one of those resume spammers where you just send out your resume or your CV to 100 places, because you're probably not going to get that many callbacks if you do. If you do, it might not be for a job you actually want anyways. And honestly, it's just kind of a big waste of time for everyone. You know, it's a waste of time for you, but it's also annoying and a waste of time to your employer. Like as someone who's hired for jobs before, I can tell right away if somebody just sent me their resume without any real thought, you know, or they sent me like a generic cover letter, which, you know, isn't really specific. But if someone really takes the time to, you know, like write a cover letter or motivational letter, saying why they want the job, that they actually kind of prove to me that they actually, this is like specifically the job they want, or at least on the short list, then I would be much more likely to want to call them in for an interview or to hire them. So it sounds like, you know, this is kind of something that you figured out not only for this travel job, but also future jobs in general. Do you think there was anything else that you did specifically to help you get this job?
I'm not sure. So yeah, I was just being very convinced that this is what I wanted. And I don't know, I was very bubbly and all that. Like when I was talking to them, that they need a guy that's like very social and very outgoing and can go along like with like anything, like can go along with any kind of people and really knows how to understand those people. So I don't know, maybe I got along with the kids of my boss very well, so that's good. Like I could also understand kids. He's like a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I don't know. Like there was very small kids, so maybe that was it, but maybe it wasn't. I can't tell you really.
Yeah, I like it. And actually, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast this week is lately, you know, we've had a lot of kind of alternative travel kind of hacks. And I don't like to call it a hack, but like ways to travel without necessarily being either like the normal where you just save up money and go traveling, or even the digital nomad route, which is, you know, you run a business while traveling. So on episode 191, we had Thomas Barlow talk about seasonal jobs, where, you know, you can basically work for 1 month on, 1 month off, and during that month off, you can, you know, basically get a free plane ticket back home, or you can use that same amount of credit to go anywhere else in the world. So you're able to basically travel every other month, you know, while working in usually in an undesirable place, like, you know, somewhere in the Middle East or somewhere where you're kind of far away from your friends and family. So you can either go home to visit, or you can go on vacation, or I guess what you could do is, you know, change it up. So 1 month you go home, 1 month you go on vacation. So this is just another example of a way that you guys can start traveling now. Because I know a lot of people listening to this are home. They might have a job that they hate. They might be stuck in a situation where they think they don't have the money to travel, that they don't have, you know, any real hope. My goal is to introduce you guys to as many alternative, you know, life paths, and really show that there's no excuses not to travel. Like, what in Holland, is it similar to this, where you have a lot of friends, you know, people you know, they're like, oh, I wish I can do this, but I can't because, XYZ?
Yeah, so it happens a lot. Well, we Dutch people, we do like to travel, and so my parents have always told me, like, oh, I wish I did the same when I was your age, etc., etc. You know the deal. But yeah, so my friends, they're more settled down, most of them. But they have the excuse, but I have a boyfriend, or we're living together, a steady job, and all that. And it's true, I suppose. Not everyone is made for traveling. As like, if you don't like the adventure bit, then I guess it's not for you. But I guess everyone should try at least once to know what it's like, and whether you can. You need to be able to say that it's something you can do or you can't do, or it's not for you or it's for you. Like, you need to be able to experience it, and even if it's just, I don't know, 3 weeks, take 3 weeks off. I know that's a lot in America, I think. In Holland, we've got like 8 weeks off in a year, so it's pretty good. And just go somewhere, maybe alone or maybe don't, and see whether you like it, and go to some place that you never thought you would go. I did the same with Nepal. I don't know why I chose Nepal. It was just different from any other country, I thought. And yeah, I've heard great stories, and now I'm here and I feel great and I'm excited. And yeah, I guess no one should be stuck or feel stuck, at least in their home country. If you have that feeling, then go out and experience it. I guess everyone says so, but that's really the thing you have to do, I suppose.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think if someone is 100% content being at home, we shouldn't force them, say, oh, you have to go travel, you have to do this. But at the same time, it really bothers me when I have friends that I know they want to travel, I know they want to do stuff, and then they complain that they can't. And usually it's, like, if you're in a relationship and the other person can't take the time off, you know what? Just take 2 or 3 weeks and just go on your own. Like, it's like, if your relationship can't, withstand 3 weeks of being apart, it's probably not going to last anyways. I hate to break it to you. But if you're always kind of waiting for the perfect time, it might not ever happen. So I would just encourage everyone to stop having excuses and go after what they want. But something else that you mentioned that really blew my mind. In the US, we get 2 weeks off per year on vacation. And in your mind, you might think, okay, that's 14 days, but really it's only 10 days off because they're including the weekends that we get off anyways. And a lot of times you can't even really take that off until you've been with the company for 1 or 2 years. How does it work in Holland? Does everybody get 8 weeks off? Because that sounds like a lot. That's like 2 months off per year. That's 2 months off and 10 months of working.
So it depends per job, obviously. Like, teachers get the holidays that the students have, and that can be very, very nice. Like, we have, I think, a week off around October, like Halloween time, a week off, and December, 2 weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, and another week off around Easter or so. And there's some like holidays like King's Day and the 4th and 5th of May, which is like our 4th of July kind of day, like a Freedom Day we call it. So everyone's off then as well. And yeah, so there's Easter and stuff. So there are quite some days that pretty much most jobs are off. And then in summer you get another 4 weeks maybe. Yeah, depends per job. So 8 weeks is fairly high. But for teachers, it's probably like 10 maybe even. Because in summer they get like 7 weeks off or so, like a full 2 months maybe even. I don't know. So it depends per job, but we get more off than 2 weeks a year for sure. Like, I guess the average is maybe 6 weeks. So
the other thing that we don't have in the US, and I honestly never even really heard of until I started traveling, like way later, I think I was like 28 already, is the theory of a gap year. So in the US, you go to elementary school, you go to middle school, you go to high school, then you go to college, then you get a job. And that is it. It is unheard of to take a year off between high school and college to do a gap year, because first off, I think, I don't know if our colleges allow it, but it just kind of feels weird because you feel like you're older than everyone. When you do start college, you just kind of feel like you're left out or something's wrong. And then after college, before you start working, everybody's so afraid that they're not going to be able to find a job, but also that we'll have so many corporate student loans that we're just not going to be able to take a year off. And I think the biggest fear is that if we do take a year off, how are we going to explain that to our employer saying, oh yeah, I went to travel for a year? Because it almost kind of, in the American culture, it makes us look bad that we're like not dedicated, that we're not going to be a good employee, that we're going to ask for a lot of vacations. It's not like that in Holland, right? Like, it's pretty normal for everyone to take a year off.
Yeah, this is very weird to hear. I've never noticed. No, it's very, very common to have a gap year. I have two. So either after high school, they take a gap year, or most of the time it's either like right in your university time. So after like 2 years of university, take a gap year and then finish university afterwards for another 2 years. Like, that happens. But so I did take 2 gap years just now after university. But yeah, the thing that withholds maybe most people in America is the money, because you pay so much more money for you're stuck with a debt for the rest of your life, really. And that's not the case in Holland, at least. We get like a study finance, so it's already less expensive to study in Holland. And so we get sponsored by the government as well. If you're a student, you get some money, and it depends on what your parents earn. So if they earn a lot, then you don't get any money. But so we get some sort of financial feedback. So we can sort of more easily afford our time as a student, like the study itself, as well as like living expenses. So in this way, it supports the students to go studying. Like almost everyone continues after high school. So not necessarily university, could also be like a lower degree, but most people they go on after. But yeah, they take a gap year. It happens so much in Holland. Like, it's very usual. But that only happened like in the last couple of years. Not like 10 or 15 years ago. It wouldn't happen as much. But I guess globalization just makes it a lot easier to go anywhere for quite a cheap price, like cheaper flights. And yeah, so it's more affordable. And I think employees or employers in Holland, they don't see it as a bad sign that you've traveled. They see it as an experience. Like, more about the culture abroad, and a lot of jobs in Holland are focused on other cultures anyway, like on other countries, and yeah, anything. Like, we're such a small country. Our economy is based on pretty much the rest of the world, so they see it as a good sign that you've traveled, I think.
So what's really funny to me is the amount of Dutch people I meet while traveling. It seems like you guys are everywhere, and your total population of your entire country is only 17 million people, versus the US has 325 million people. Yet anywhere I go, I meet way more Dutch people than I meet Americans. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I feel the same. Like, I keep meeting Dutch people all over, and I think it's a shame that might be very, very individualistic for me to say, but I don't like meeting Dutch people as much, because I'm on holiday, or sort of I'm traveling. I want to see other cultures, and then I keep bumping into Dutch people everywhere. But yeah, we're a small country. We don't have many people, but yeah, we're all over the place. That's why, like, we're dependent on all other countries, and it's very, very common for us to travel. Yeah, and this just shows, the figure shows, like, we don't have many people, but pretty much everyone of our age either has traveled or is traveling right now.
The other thing you mentioned about the student loan debt, I guess, is a big factor. How much did you end up owing after school? And actually, how much does it cost kind of on average, either per semester or per year, to go to maybe university?
So I still have a depth of like maybe, I can't really tell, maybe 10,000 euros. But I haven't paid it back. But that's, I don't know. There's a very, very small percentage I have to pay over that amount. Like it's 0.05 or so. So it's not increasing very heavily. So that's why I'm actually waiting for my travel years to have passed and I have like a very stable income, like a full year stable income. So I haven't paid it back yet, but there's no rush because I don't have to pay much more. An average year, I don't know, it costs maybe, it depends on the study and the university, the degree, anything. But for my degree, I paid maybe 2,000 for a year. Yeah, so that's like the student fee, I suppose, for a year. And then you get like the study finance, so you get it from the government at first to be able to pay your loan and your rent for your room and etc. And that's like another, I don't know, it's also like a few thousand euros you get from the government. But that's the debt I have. So I have it not towards the university, but towards the government. I have a debt that I have to pay them back. But yeah, I'm pretty confident it will just work out. And you can increase the study finance. You can ask to loan more money as well. If you're in need, like, in my time abroad in Australia, I, loaned like 1,000 euros per month extra, because Australia is just very expensive, you know, like I paid almost like 1,000 euros per month on my room, which was a very small room. And I don't know, it was just very expensive living there. So I needed a higher loan, but that just adds up to my debt. So yeah, that's how the finances are like. It's not so bad, really. Not so bad as America.
Yeah, it's crazy that you guys pay less than 1% interest. I just looked it up. In the US, we pay between 3.76 to 4.66% interest, which is pretty freaking high, especially because, you know, a savings account in a bank is paying less than 1%. So this is a really easy way for people to stay in debt forever, especially because the average student in the US leaves college with $37,000 in student loan debt. And a lot of people, they leave it with much more. So I think for me, it was just around that amount. I think I had about, you know, $35,000 or $40,000 in student loan debt. And it's a real easy way to feel like you're stuck and that you can't travel, that you can't take a risk starting a business. You can't take a risk taking a travel job or low paying job to, you know, enjoy life now. But I think the bigger risk is going our whole lives kind of playing that safe side and never doing anything, because that's almost guaranteed that you won't follow your dreams, that you won't be able to go on those dream destination trips, you know, until maybe you're 65, and maybe by then you might not physically be able to do it. So if you have a goal to be able to trek in a place like Nepal, go to Everest Base Camp, or do the Annapurna Circuit, or see the Himalayas, do it now, because it's not going to get any easier as you get older. It's possible. You know, I met some, you know, retirees who, you know, are 65 who are doing some of the treks, but I guarantee it's a lot harder than when you're in your 20s or your 30s.
Yeah, I'd like to say so. I did meet a group of like, they were saving money, for sort of, cancer association. I can't remember the name. That's a shame. But they were walking, like even with their disease, they were walking up to Everest Base Camp, to raise money for that association. And, it must have been so hard for them. I've met them. I think we were at like 3,000 or 4,000, like meters elevation. I don't know how many feet that is. I have no clue. So I was just, so flabbergasted about their motivational spirit, that they were gonna make it up there. Like, two of the people there, actually had the disease, and, the others, they were just raising the money. But, it was just, so even if you're a bit older, even if you are physically not as capable. I think it's all about the spirit itself, taking it easy and if you want it bad enough, you might be able to get it, like, to make it up there, as long as you take your time and listen to your body, I suppose. So, but yeah, like, obviously it's so much easier when you're younger, physically and I suppose mentally as well. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it when you're older.
Yeah, and I think I saw studies that said that the majority of people who get altitude sickness on these treks are in the 20s and 30s, and they have a feeling that it's because older people would just walk slower. They're also, usually a bit wiser, where they are more cautious about looking for symptoms and, studying the what to do when you get altitude sickness. So usually they just don't get it as often, because as soon as they have a symptom, they just stop, or they follow the directions to go down to the next, to lower village, while people in their 20s or 30s, just like, I'll be fine. Let me just keep going. But they fall to peer pressure and just keep following their group. And actually, just during breakfast this morning, I met a guy, and he had his glasses shattered, or had a big crack in his glasses. And I asked him, what happened? And he said, I got altitude sickness on Annapurna Circuit, and I just fell face first. Yeah,
the glasses didn't look very pretty. That's right. So it's true. You have to be very, you have to listen to your body, if you can't take it, don't overdo it. And, like I said so many times, just take it easy. And, but if the motivation is there, you can stay another night, you can stay another 2 or 3 nights, whatever. And then try again. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, turn back while you still can. But at least you've tried, and you've made it as far as your body would allow you to go. So, yeah, even though everyone here has done some sort of trekking, I feel, it's still a big thing to do, even though, because everyone's doing it here, it doesn't seem like a big thing, but it is it's physically and mentally quite a challenge to make it up the Annapurna or Everest region.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it almost, sometimes when you're here, because it's so common, that sometimes people think, it's not as big of a deal because it's so common, but it doesn't make it any less challenging. It doesn't make it any less dangerous. It doesn't make it any less rewarding. So I would suggest to everyone, know that it's possible, know that, a lot of people do it. So the trails are well marked and the infrastructure is there, but it's still going to be a personal challenge for you, and for everyone who goes up. My best piece of advice is to have extra time, because I think that's the number one thing that screws people, is if they have a really limited amount of time, they're forced to either start higher up so they don't have the time to acclimatize, or they feel forced to stay on schedule and hike faster than they should, or longer days than they should, and gain more elevation per day than they should, or they don't have the time to rest or recover if they do start getting some symptoms. And I think just in general, in all travel, all of life, it's always good to have a few buffer days wherever you go. Any tips for people during all these travels, whether it's about Nepal or kind of just in general?
What I tend to forget myself is that I need to enjoy the moments. Enjoy where you are, enjoy what you're doing. Sometimes you forget that you've got a life back home, or you get sort of lost in your traveling, but you can enjoy the little things. Even if it's just a good breakfast this morning or whatever. I keep forgetting that I'm traveling and I'm not at work and I'm not responsible to anyone. I'm doing this for me, and sometimes I tend to forget. And I think it's very, very important to enjoy as much as you can, while trekking or wherever, do it because you want it to, not because anyone else wants you to, or because people expect you to, just do whatever you feel like. And I guess that's the main thing all the solo travelers do. They just do whatever they feel like and don't act because other people expect you to act like that or whatever.
I like it. So thank you today, Maria, because it's been really fun. I want to acknowledge you for your adventures and your travels and being, so courageous to travel on your own, do all these cool treks and do all these amazing things. I wish you the best of luck on the Annapurna Circuit that you're going to be going on. I do think you're crazy that you did both the Everest Base Camp, the 3 passes, and then now the 3rd trek on Annapurna Circuit. The last thing I want to ask you, which we've been asking everyone recently, is I want to just give you the mic for 2 minutes, and I want you just to mention anything that you want everyone to know, whether it's like your favorite gear or your favorite apps or your favorite books or your favorite anything. Just like dump it out there, whatever, things that you want people to know about, things that you recommend, things that you love, life tips, packing tips, whatever it is.
Thank you. It was great to be on the show. I've never done anything like this, so that's also a reason why you should travel. You bump into things that you never thought you would do. And I think that's also very important when traveling. Just, you're there at that point and just, go for it, why wouldn't you? Why, what's holding you back? Just say yes once in a while, I don't know, apps I love, I don't know, Maps.me is awesome. You must know, everyone has it. It's better than Google Maps or whatever. It's just an app. You download the map and you're covered for the whole country. It's great. Other things I love, I don't know, packing cubes or whatever. They're just so functional. I love them. Just a head torch. It seems dorky, but whenever you're camping or on camping or whatever, in the hostel late at night, I don't know, it's just so functional. A head torch. It seems so silly, but it is. Things like that. I don't know. I could never go without them. Even on a trek, you have to carry it all in your backpack, but I would definitely take a packing cube or 1 or 2 or the head torch, things like that. What else? Yeah, I think, you shouldn't be scared for anything that's gonna happen or will happen, or it will happen whenever it happens, and everyone's always very helpful, even if they don't speak your language. Here in Nepal, I have been to some places where they don't speak any English, and they still want to help you either way. With just hands and feet, you'll make your way through. I was talking to my mom. She's like, "Oh yeah, what are you gonna do without your phone? Because I don't have any reception here. I don't have a local SIM card. I have nothing really." But that's just the thing. There are always people around. There are always people to ask. There are always people wanting to help you. And maybe you'll have a bad day. You can't stay in a proper place, or maybe you'll have I don't know. 2 days ago I had a bus ride of 14 hours, which should have taken 4 or 5. Yeah, some things just don't work out sometimes, but you always end up somewhere, and there's always some food around. And yeah, and if you, even if you don't have food for a day, well, the next day you'll have some food, whatever. Yeah, sometimes life sucks, but, the next day will be better. And, yeah, I think, no one should stay in a place they don't want to, and just go for whatever they want. Go after your dreams. And yeah, that was it really.
Well, dankjewel. I'm really happy you came on the podcast. Are you on Instagram or Twitter? Do you have a blog or anywhere that you want people to follow you, or would you rather stay offline?
Yeah, I'll stay anonymous. That's probably best. Yeah, thank you.
But if you're ever in Holland, look for the tall, skinny blonde girl, and I'm sure on the bicycle, and I'm sure you'll find Maria there. But thanks to everyone for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a review on the iTunes Store, on Spotify, wherever you listen, and spread the word, because it's fun doing these episodes, and I want more people to hear them. So I will see all of you guys next week. Until then, stay bossy. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.